Hello, I am here to tell you about the Living by Chemistry curriculum for high school students, usually in grade 11. My name is Scott Balicki, and there's my email address. If you ever have any questions about the Living by Chemistry curriculum, don't hesitate to email. So, first of all, what is Living by Chemistry? It is a guided inquiry curriculum which follows the 5E model of teaching and learning. The 5Es are engage, explore, explain, extend, and evaluate. So those are the things which are going on over the course of every 5E lesson. Furthermore, the curriculum is organized into 6 units entitled Alchemy, Smells, Toxins, Weather, Fire, and Showtime. So what you will need in order to be able to teach the Living by Chemistry curriculum is a student workbook, student textbook, a teacher's edition, and the teacher's edition may be books. For example, this is a picture here of the Toxins teacher's edition, or it may be digital PDF files, depending on what your school has. There are instructor PowerPoints, and there are kits for alchemy, smells, and weather. These kits are very important to have. Lessons are undoable without these kits in the alchemy and smells units, as well as one lesson in the weather unit, which is what the kit covers. If your school does not have these kits, it's essential that you get them very quickly. Your school will be able to order them from the BFW High School website that I've clicked on right here. And you can see that we have the alchemy kit, smells kit, and weather kit. And you can see all of these decks of cards, which are for guided inquiry lessons in the alchemy, smells, and weather units. So how is the curriculum organized? The reason that the units have the titles that they do is because each unit is guided by a central question. For example, the alchemy unit is called alchemy because all of the lessons in some way help the students develop a deeper understanding of whether we can make gold out of cheaper metals. Alchemy, in many ways, was one of the foundational pre-science activities, I guess we could call it, that mankind engaged in order to try and learn more about matter in the world. So we kind of put ourselves in the mindset of can we make cheaper metals into gold? And so anytime a student has one of those why are we doing this questions, we can go back to say we're trying to find out if we can make cheaper metals into gold. And if we could do that, that would be beneficial to us. And you can see I've also written some other sort of guiding questions related to other units. So all organized around these central questions, which are interesting and engaging to students. Now, each unit is split up into 22 to 28 lessons, depending on the unit, and will include pen and paper assignments, in-class activities involving some manipulatives, be them a deck of cards or balances and rods, for example. And they may also include lab activities. It's important to note that the curriculum presumed that your school has basic chemistry materials and supplies, hot plates, beakers, stirring rods, chemicals, etc. So, during Living by Chemistry lessons, what do students do? What they will do is they will begin by answering a do now question or an entry point question. They're called chem catalysts in the curriculum. And then they will carry out an activity. As previously mentioned, it may be a pen and paper activity, it may be a lab experiment, and they complete the questions through what is called the making sense question, which is kind of like the culminating question of the lesson. This carrying out of the activity, okay, will involve students exploring, investigating, generalizing, making inferences, all of these habits of developing scientists. And then sharing out with classmates is a good way to culminate a lesson. Teachers will pose a chem catalyst to the class and then will possibly reinforce if students are familiar with the technique or the experiment, possibly provide lab instructions, depending upon decisions that the teacher has made about that lab. They will facilitate and coach and ask probing questions of students as they work either individually or in groups, and will organize the share out, help the class collectively make sense of what they have learned, and then that big one, assess student understanding. So in order to make this a little bit more concrete, I thought I would show you briefly what this would look like with some of the resource materials that the curriculum provides. So for example, lesson 17 in the alchemy unit is called Technicolor Atoms. And the reason I selected this lesson is because it is a flame test lab. So this is something that is probably very familiar to people who have studied and who have taught chemistry. So the unit would begin with a chem catalyst. And when I say unit, I mean lesson. The lesson would begin with a chem catalyst, and we're presented with some models, and students are asked to describe each model, say what's similar and what's different. Okay, so we're just kind of like taking ourselves out of the hall and beginning to think about the unit at hand. The slides show, like, this is our key question. The slides show these are what you will be able to do. These can be directly written on the board because students will be able to, objectives are very important for every teacher to have. And then students would carry out the lesson. Now, what I'm showing is from the teacher's edition, so it has the answers in it, but the student worksheet would look exactly the same with the exception that the answers wouldn't be filled out. So the Technicolor Atoms worksheet has instructions. It tells students to make an observation table, and then asks some analysis questions. Group the substances based on the flame colors produced. What patterns do you notice? Predict a flame color. Okay, and then the making sense question. Can the flame test be used to identify a metal atom in the compound? So this is the organization of a worksheet. For homework, what I would do is I would then assign students to read Technicolor Atoms in their accompanying textbook. So the Technicolor Atoms reviews what they had learned during the lesson, describes a model for what science thinks is going on in terms of the excitation of electrons, and then provides some homework questions, which I would assign some of on a daily basis. So, pacing will be very important as you prepare to teach with Living by Chemistry. Suggestions that I have for you in order to think about preparing for next year: talk to colleagues. If there are people at your school who have taught with it, they are a wealth of information. bpsscience.weebly.com has several materials which are very useful. This is what the website looks like, and what we need to do is go to the Student Learning Outcomes, Pacing Guides, and Calendars page. And if we scroll down, we see we can download the Student Learning Outcomes for Chemistry, and that is described by unit. Chemistry Pacing Guide, Chemistry Planning Calendar. Okay, these are essential documents. So here are the Student Learning Outcomes by marking period. Here is the Pacing Guide. And here we see a calendar which was organized for last year's school year. Whoops. Okay, so we see the calendar here. All right, so those are resources all available from the BPS Weebly site. And in conclusion, I would also offer up people in order to contact if you have questions about anything going on as you begin to teach with Living by Chemistry. Pam Pelletier and Holly Rosa are science director and assistant director of implementation at the BPS. Super helpful, super useful. You can send them an email. And I myself, as a science teacher, would be happy to answer any email inquiries over the course of the year that you may have about teaching with Living by Chemistry. For more information, you can look at future screencasts, which will go through the alchemy, smells, toxins, weather, fire, and showtime units in detail.